What's up, YouTube? I just finished up an amazing episode of The Night Of. Oh, wow, it was so good. I want to start out by saying, okay, the episode was called The Subtle Beast, and Bill Camp is killing it in this role as Detective Box. We see him being very careful and very methodical in his movements in this episode. First off, we see him meeting with Naz's parents. We got Detective Box trying to play that role that, hey, even though there's gatekeepers, he's the good guy in the situation. He's trying to facilitate a resolution that's good for everyone. He's manipulating from that aspect. And then secondly, we saw that even though he doesn't have evidence that the prosecution would want, basically a confession from this kid, we see him working Nas, trying to get that confession out, trying to, hey man, here's your inhaler, here's this, here's that. He's trying to do favors and trying to make these people think that he still is a good cop and that he's their friend and whatnot. So we see him being very careful and very manipulative. It was very revealing when Jack Stone, or John Turturro's character, was saying that Detective Box was the subtle beast, because he said that Box treats every case personally. And I think that we're seeing that from him. We're seeing some sort of sincerity that Detective Box is trying to get to the bottom. He's trying to get all the evidence. He wants all the pieces lined up so everything goes smooth in court. And it may or may not happen. At any rate, we're seeing Box playing the good cop role while he's still advancing the objectives of the prosecution. And it's making for some very dramatic film. And at the same time, we got a lot out of Nas in this episode. We're seeing what things are like from his perspective. We're seeing him in jail. We're seeing him in the holding. And he's just starting to go deeper in the rabbit hole that probably at the end of the first episode, Nas thought, hey, things are as bad as they're going to get. But this episode, he's really hitting rock bottom. We're seeing him in prison. We're seeing him sort of bullied by the prosecution, by Detective Box. We see him moving from the first episode where he has some sort of fear and anxiety about the situation, but he's still in his locus of control where he knows where he's at and kind of what's going on, to being arraigned, getting these charges, and at the end of the episode, going to Rikers Island where things are going to get real deep for him and things will be terrible. I thought that Nas was going to get killed in jail, and I really don't think that anymore. It seems like he's going to make it farther, but it does hint that something bad's going to happen to him. He saw these guys getting beat up in jail while he was in the holding cell, and then moving into the general population at, county, at Rikers Island. It's just going to go from bad to worse for Nas. But it's also interesting to me that we really didn't get any evidence. Like in the first episode, we kind of see what happened the actual night of, and we didn't get so much in this episode. More of now, we're seeing what's happening with Nas at the current time. We're just furthering the plot by seeing what he's going through. There were some interesting scenes that dealt with the cars and the examination of them, with the police and Detective Box going to Nas's parents' house and taking their laptops, invading their privacy, and that's what was really driving the plot in this episode. We're not seeing any further information about what actually happened the night of and what happened at the murder. I feel like we're just as clueless as we were in the first episode. I mean, I guess we did get a little bit of backstory that this girl that was murdered had some priors. She had been in trouble with the police, and even her stepdad wasn't really surprised that she was murdered. He was used to getting these bad calls, and he was anticipating it. He didn't want to deal with it anymore. And then the third highlight from this episode was really getting a peek into the life of Jack Stone and who he is and why he's doing this. And even though, like we discussed in the first broadcast, I think that there is a little bit of selflessness that, he just does want to do good by this kid because of their heritage and their culture and this understanding they have as Pakistanis. But we're also seeing that this guy does have a career and he wants to do well. We learned that Jack Stone has a family. He's got a son, he's got an ex-wife who even expressed, hey, are you ready for a murder case? Are you ready to move up to the big league? Are you capable of this? And I think Stone is even doubting himself a little bit in that. I think he's been grinding for a long time, and he really wants to do good in this case. So even though there's evidence building against Nas, and I think it's going to continue to build throughout the series, the pressure is mounting not just on Nas, but as the audience, we're experiencing the pressure mounting on the lawyer, on Stone, and for him to do good against all odds. For me, it was a really telling moment when they were in the courtroom, and the judge asked, hey, did you come by this by chance, or the right place at the right time? And Stone realized, yeah, I was just in the right place at the right time. Things usually don't work out for me, but I hope it does this time. The judge said, good for you. You deserve this. So for what it's worth, I really, really liked episode 2 of this show. Probably even more than the first episode. At least we got some more information. We're putting names with faces, and we're starting to see these people emerging in their roles. The Night Of does really well aesthetically. Like, this is just a beautiful show to watch. The filmography is amazing. The soundtrack is amazing. I really like the cutscenes when it switched back and forth from Box's classical music to the humdrum noise of the subway and the convenience store where Stone was at, to the jail noises where Nas was. Just very beautifully cut, and helps us as the audience understand that there's these separate threads, but they're all happening at the same time, and we're experiencing all these things simultaneously. It was also really nice when Mr. Taylor got called in. He's at the morgue, he sees his daughter dead, and then there's a scene where he's looking at the speaker in this glass wall, and the woman's talking to him about, you know, whatever bureaucratic process is going on, but he's just so out of it that there's no humanity in the situation. Essentially, the speaker is what the camera was focused on, and that's all that he was interacting with. And there's a sadness of the truth that there's a lot of people in this situation, there's no humanity in the situation. There's no warmth and no feeling. But as much as this show made me feel warm about, you know, what was going on, it still made me wonder what will happen in the future. So where are we going? I think for this story to advance, we're going to need some blood work to see, hey, was it just Nas and this girl? Was there maybe a third party involved at the crime scene? Box needs a confession, and sort of like Stone was arguing in court, a lot of this is circumstantial. It's very strong evidence, but they do want a confession or some sort of witnesses to see what was going on. And thirdly, I think we're going to have this story of Nas is a good kid in a bad situation, and seeing him advance to Rikers Island is making things bad to worse for him. I probably called it wrong saying that Nas was going to get killed, but he experienced some violence, you know, secondhand. I think he is going to get beat up or, you know, or worse in prison. I think something bad's going to happen to this kid in the third, fourth, following episodes. But I also think the story is going where there needs to be some sort of doubt that Box is pretty confident. He has a lot of evidence against Nas, but there's something in his gut where he still has some reservations about this trial. And I don't think Box is just going to forget about his gut feeling. I think he's going to see that reinforced by some sort of abnormalities in the evidence that he finds, and I think it's going to give him, as well as the audience, some doubt that Nas did it. So, what do I think happened? Personally, I still think that Nas committed this crime. I think he did drugs, I think he was getting carried away with sex, and I think he killed this girl, because we have no evidence to believe otherwise. But I'm very open to contrary opinions, and I'm very open to where this story is going. So I'm having a lot of fun watching this show. It's interesting, and I think in the next episode we'll get some more backstory about what actually happened the night of, rather than what's happening with Nas right now at Rikers Island. So that's all I got on episode 2. I hope you enjoyed this. Please keep watching. Leave your comments below if you agree with me or if you disagree with me. And we'll look forward to next Sunday when the next episode comes out, and I'll leave some sort of remarks, some sort of feedback, and we can continue the conversation then. Thanks. I'll see you later. Bye.